One of the things that leaders have to do, and especially Christian leaders, is you have to be able to rebuke. So we're going to talk about what the rebuke is. We talked earlier in a session about encouragement and endurance. This is a little bit different. When you look at Jesus and you look at the conversations he had with people, when he rebuked people, the people he rebuked the most were not the sinners, were not the people who made mistakes, who did things wrong. There was, yes, a rebuke in that, but there was a rebuke with a restoration purpose. When he rebuked the religious people, he rebuked them not necessarily from a restoration standpoint. You might argue that he rebuked Nicodemus to restore him. But most of the time the rebuke was, here's one, you brood of evil vipers. Would you like God to call you a brood of evil vipers? That's pretty tough as a rebuke. They were whitewashed sepulchres that was just graves of death on the inside and whitewashed on the outside. Amazing things he said to them. That's what I would consider to be a harsh rebuke that was not meant for restoration. That was a rebuke to differentiate them, religiosity, from those who really followed Christ. And interesting, when you look then at the ones he rebuked, the ones who did evil, he rebuked them gently. Woman, where are your accusers? You remember the prostitute before him, I think she was naked, and they were ready to stone her to death. And he said, woman, where are your accusers? Go and sin no more. The rebuke was for restoration. That's why he rebuked her. He knew who she was in him. He knew who she could be. He saw in her a future that she didn't even see in herself. And for a leader working or running a Christian company, your ability to see in people what God would see in them is how you can use a rebuke to say, here's why I'm doing this, because you're falling short of the mark. You're falling short of the best that you can give me. It could be simple rebuke on how people use their time. It doesn't have to all relate to something spiritual, but the rebuke should be for the restoration. And how can you not see somebody down the road, see what God sees in them, and then not say, my rebuke should lead to that person? So the next time you have to discipline somebody, reprimand, or write them up, do whatever it is as a leader. Remember, is the rebuke for restoration, or is the rebuke so that you can cover yourself legally? If it's just to cover yourself legally because you've made the decision to fire the person after all, you can still rebuke with restoration. One of the greatest things that ever happened to me was the termination of somebody who walked out of my office, where I told them that I repeatedly told them how much Christ loved them, and that a lot of the issues that they were dealing with were issues of running from God. And I had ministered to this person and given grace upon grace upon grace. And finally, it was over, and the last rebuke was in a termination. He walked downstairs to the coffee shop that we frequented, and he told the lady behind the counter what had just happened, and she led him to Jesus Christ. The rebuke, even though he was terminated, really was for his restoration. God was so gracious to me to let me be part of that and see it. He became a good friend. He never worked for me again because he was still pretty bad at what he did. But he will be in the kingdom with me forever. And that's the kind of restoration that matters. So, rebuked to restore. This has been a V-Couragement from Kingdom Companies. Have a great and blessed day.